Ah yes, it's the return of the Around the League segment and a look at the AL East standings where the Jays are 21 games above 500 at 82-61. They've built up a healthy 3-game lead in the loss column over the Yankees, who are at 78-64. The Jays took 2 of 3 games from the Yanks over the weekend, including sweeping a doubleheader on Saturday. Marcus Stroman won his first start of the season in the nightcap, and that's a big weapon for the Jays down the stretch. If they can pair Stroman with David Price at the top of the rotation in October, that's dangerous, because remember, Stroman last year was inarguably Toronto's best pitcher. Then he got hurt prior to the season, and that was a big blow for the Blue Jays on paper, but they were able to overcome that, and obviously, since the trade deadline, acquiring Price, Troy Tulowitzki, some pieces for their bullpen, they've been the best team in baseball, had the best run differential in baseball all season long, but the results finally matching up with the performance, or to borrow a phrase that we used earlier in this show when talking about Ben Cherington's ousting as Red Sox general manager and the seeming philosophy change with bringing Dave Dombrowski aboard, the results finally match the process in Toronto. Best run differential in baseball for the entirety of the season, hovering around 500 the first half and first 4 months, but then finally the results match the process in Toronto. They're going to play October baseball up there. It's just a matter of whether it's divisional winners, wild card winners, and right now with the way the Jays are playing and the way the Yankees are falling a little bit, it seems as if the Blue Jays will be the AL East champions this year, but still Yankees within striking distance. We'll talk a little more about the Yankees in a moment. Then we have the race for third. Rays 69-73, Orioles 68-73 entering Sunday night. Red Sox 68-74. That narrative that we love to say, myself included, 3 last place finishes in 4 years may no longer be relevant at the end of the season for the Red Sox, or even by the end of this week. But looking at the Yankees right now, second place in the division, 3 out of first, lead the AL wild card. They're faltering though over the last couple weeks. Mark Teixeira done for the year. Nathan Eovaldi done for the year as well. CC Sabathia is back, but has an ERA north of 5 and an ERA plus of only 76. That means he's 24 points below a league average pitcher. I mean, with numbers like, with a performance like that, it'd almost be better if Sabathia weren't back, quite frankly. You look at the Yankees, I don't think many people around baseball thought they would be where they are today. And the fact that they're here, 14 games above 500, middle of September, in position for a playoff spot, is remarkable. And I don't think the Yankees have anything to be ashamed about, regardless of how this season ends. I mean, Alex Rodriguez should win Comeback Player of the Year, 31 home runs on the season. Surprisingly, not a lot of A-Rod hate around, which may actually be a troubling commentary on baseball's lack of national popularity. The fact that A-Rod coming back, 31 homers as he hits 40, I mean, really, what's he on it? It doesn't seem like anybody's really asking those questions on a national level, which probably tells us again we're largely over the steroid issue as sports fans, but also I think it speaks about baseball's lack of national popularity. The fact that A-Rod is not really a lightning rod anymore. He really isn't. But that's another story for another day. As far as this year for the Yankees, A-Rod's resurgence, a huge part and a huge reason as to why they are where they are. But entering the year, we said it, just a top-heavy roster, no depth, and they've been able to stay healthy for the first 5.5 months up until the last few weeks, the Teixeira injury being the big one. And I think the Yankees will continue to fall. I don't think they'll catch Toronto. They may hold on for one of these wild card spots here. Have a 3.5-game lead on Texas, a 4-game lead on Minnesota. The futility of the American League may keep them in it, but outside of that, I don't think the Yankees will go much further. The Jays are clearly the better team, but still, I think it's a big accomplishment for the Yankees to be where they are today. And speaking for the wild card, I am a proponent of the 2 wild card system. I think it creates more exciting baseball down the stretch, but I will say this year is not a banner year for the 2 wild card format. The National League really is taking a hit because of it this year. You have the Cubs and Pirates firmly entrenched in playoff spots, whereas if there was just one wild card, you'd have those two teams battling it out. So that is the disappointment there. I mean, you have both of them already setting their rotations up for the one-game playoff. So not a banner year for the two wild card system, though again, generally it creates more exciting baseball down the stretch for more teams. Sports is about entertainment, folks, so I am on board. The Nationals will not be a part of the playoff conversation this year. They've sunk to 9 games behind the Mets in the East, roughly 9.5 out of the wild card 2. They're now just 2 games above 500, 72 and 70. And in a microcosm of their season, Drew Storen broke his thumb in a fit of rage in the locker room after Wednesday's loss to New York. So he is out for the year, though given how poorly he's performed since Papelbon came aboard, it doesn't really matter. Storen has posted a 7.56 ERA since the trade deadline this year. So the Papelbon trade has not worked out in the least. They attempted to fill a need they didn't have, replacing their closer Storen, who prior to the trade was having an all-star caliber season with Papelbon, and it just totally threw Storen, into a mess here. 7.56 ERA since the deadline. And what also exacerbates the fact that the Papelbon trade has been so bad is that Matt Williams doesn't know how to use them, because Matt Williams doesn't know how to manage a bullpen. I mean, his bullpen moves, you could say, cost the Nationals a series victory in the playoffs last year. And again, down the stretch, it is not the reason why they are where they are, but it is a reason why they are what they are. You go back to earlier this month, this game against St. Louis sticks in my mind. Tie game on the road. You leave the struggling Casey Janssen in there instead of Jonathan Papelbon, and Williams' reasoning afterwards is, well, it's my closer and it's on the road. We're going to wait till we have a lead. Like the most traditionalist, non-outside the box thinking you can imagine. I'm not asking for Matt Williams to go to his closer in the 7th inning. No big league manager would do that outside of, maybe game 7 of a playoff series or something. But these are essentially playoff games for the Nationals, and the fact that they had a manager in Matt Williams just so beholden to these traditional bullpen roles when the games mattered most, really cost him. And you even go to Tuesday night against the Mets, you down 1 in the bottom of the 9th inning. You have Anthony Rendon, who next to Bryce Harper is your best hitter at the plate. Man on first, nobody out, and you bunt? What? You bunt with Rendon, a hitter in the middle of your lineup? And then Williams' reasoning after the game is, we were trying to avoid the double play. Like, what? Have you ever heard of that? A manager sacrificing an out with one of his top 3 best hitters to avoid the double play? It doesn't even make sense. So, Matt Williams has done pretty much all he can this year to deserve losing his job. You also just look at how the Nationals have dramatically, woefully underachieved, and it is ugly in the nation's capital. It has also been ugly in New York with the Mets and Matt Harvey. The innings debate rages on. And a couple of quick thoughts here. Number 1, blame the pitcher instead of the agent. I know that Scott Boras is a popular whipping boy, but he's looking out for the interests of his client. Scott Boras works for Matt Harvey, not the other way around. If Matt Harvey didn't want his agent doing his dirty work in the press by talking about the innings limit and how they want to stick to that 180 innings limit, then Boras wouldn't have opened his mouth, okay? So, blame the pitcher there too. Scott Boras did not go rogue. He did not act autonomously. The agent and player usually, if not always, work in concert with each other because the agent is an employee of the player when it comes down to it. So let's not forget that. I'm also going to levy some blame on the Mets here. I think they should have had this planned out long before it blew up. They should have known in July. Around the All-Star break, you evaluate where you are. You say, oh, wow, the Nationals are scuffling. We're in first place. we could make the playoffs this year. Oh, we have this innings limit we talked about with Matt, 180 innings. Obviously, if we want him to pitch in the playoffs, we're going to have to break that. So let's talk about it now. But instead, the Mets and Harvey were at this point where Harvey's side seemingly probably felt as if it had no other choice but to air out its dirty laundry in the press to get a point across and to get some movement on the subject and to open up the communication lines, if you will. So I blame the Mets too for how this has gotten out of hand. Of course, we know how the story ends. Harvey posts on the Players Tribune last week that he will pitch in the playoffs, has always wanted to pitch in the playoffs, and is working with the Mets to come up with a plan that works for both parties. Terry Collins and the Mets have said Harvey's going to start the last game of the year against Washington, and then they'll take it from there. I think Harvey pitches in the playoffs. I'm not sure he would have been able to live it down. And, I understand. A playoff run is not worth the health of Matt Harvey's right arm long term. That's a right arm that's going to earn him $200+ million if he stays healthy. So Harvey, in the, from a self-interest perspective, is 100% right when he decides to be cautious and talks about not surpassing that 180 innings limit 1 year after Tommy John surgery. We know the numbers. No pitcher in history has thrown 200 innings just 1 year after Tommy John. So we get it. What Harvey's doing is unprecedented, and I understand him wanting to look out for number one. But as a sports fan, as a baseball fan, it just sucks to hear that, because this is why we watch, especially a sport like baseball. 6 months, 162 games, so many of these games are meaningless. We watch for this, August, September, your team is in a pennant race, entering the playoffs. We watch for these games, and for a guy like Harvey to even toy sitting out of the postseason, sitting out of these games, sends the message that, these aren't really all that important. And that sucks to hear as a fan, because then you ask, why do I invest the time I do if the players don't even want to play in the most important game? So I get it from Harvey's perspective, looking out for number one, the self-interest, all of that. And if I were in his position, maybe I would do the same thing. But I'd also like to think I would be a little cognizant of the fans, a little cognizant of the people who are responsible for all the money around baseball, the demand of baseball, and thus pay my salary. And I would have tried to handle this a better way than the public fiasco it became, because it does not reflect well on Harvey in the court of public opinion. And he should care about that.